Hello everyone and welcome back to White One Racing. Today we'll try to talk about a topic that many of you asked for. We will talk about how the carburetors work, and last time we gave you a quick rundown. Now we'll get into more specifics. We'll look at the bottom and top of the carburetor together. I will talk about the bottom and I will talk about the top. Of course, we have a Dell'Orto carburetor that will work as an example. So here we are. The petrol enters from here and then reaches the tank, passing through the petrol valve, which is the first bottleneck. Needless to say, make sure that there aren't any others above, because otherwise all of this will be useless. In any case, there are various petrol valves of various sizes. It's useless, as they say, to kill a fly with a cannon, so choose a petrol valve a little more abundant than the needs of the engine, but not exaggerated, because it's not necessary. Then there is the float that presides over the maintenance of the constant level. Actually almost constant, because all other conditions being equal, therefore apart from vibrations and everything, as the throttle opens and the engine revs up and the demand for fuel increases. A new balance must be established, so the passage of petrol in the tank is greater. So the level will necessarily be a little lower at full throttle and a little higher at a idle. The importance of the level lies in the fact that it affects the pressure necessary to recall gasoline. The lower the level, the more depression it takes. Too high a level, however, causes a lot of trouble, because it makes the engine trip, and beyond a certain limit it causes it to float, as it's evident when the pin moves out too much and doesn't hold well. So what does the gasoline do? It remains in the tray and is absorbed by the main jet, which is here. In this case, the main jet of this type of carburetors is of great importance, but the maximum importance is played at full opening, because the needle plays a fundamental role in all other openings. But how does it work though? How is it sucked in? We said that it passes through the tube, enters the tray, and then thanks to the depression in the venturi, or even these carburetors where there is the point where the gasoline can be aspirated, it's not exactly a venturi, because there is no real bottleneck. However, this depression causes the fuel to be sucked in, and all these things, the needle, the jet, the pulverizer are used to maintain, or to have the possibility to do so, to maintain the title of the mixture air fuel aspirated by the engine, always a hair above the ideal stoichiometric ratio, for two needs. One, because the excess fuel helps to keep temperatures low, thanks to the latent heat of the fuel, which is the heat it can absorb by passing from the liquid to the gaseous state. Two, precisely because it's a mechanical system. No matter how accurate the calibration may be, there will always be variations, so that it'll approach more or less always in excess the ideal stoichiometric ratio. And it's for this reason that electronic management system is steadily in vogue for some of us who are young, and some elderly who like these objects. But those systems there can remain much closer to the ideal stoichiometric ratio, with the benefit of consumption. In the upper part of the carburetor we find three elements fundamentally, which can influence the title of the fuel. We have the chamfer of the gas valve, which is this, whose measurement is written on the bottom of the valve, 45, 40, 50, and so on. On the needle, with its three main characteristics: cylindrical diameter, length of the conical part, and diameter of the tip. And then the emulsifier. There is this here, which is the transitional thing, because it's between the bottom and the top of the carburetor. It allows you to have a variable calibration curve. Now I'll focus on this aspect, that is by changing the length of the conical part of the diameter of the tip or the diameter of the cylindrical section. It's possible to have a richer or leaner calibration at medium, low or high openings. And clearly, even with respect to the regimens, because it works in depression as we have already seen. So how does the needle, together with the nozzle, regulate how much fuel is in the mixture? It does this through the diameter, that is, through the residual passage area that exists when the needle moves from the bottom upwards inside the pulverizer. What does this mean? I'll make it short. The shorter the conical part, the more we will have a lean calibration at small openings. The smaller the tip, the more we'll have a rich calibration at large apertures. Clearly, the diameter of the cylindrical part influences all those openings in which the conical part doesn't yet protrude inside the venturi. By mixing all these characteristics of the needle, it's possible to obtain the right calibration, or at least the least wrong. You know what some friends of us do? They put a 28 carburetor on a 24 manifold, thinking this is going to be better, but it doesn't seem to me that's good. What do you say? It's not better, on the contrary. From what we have said so far, you must have understood that it's already quite difficult to find an optimal calibration that is really such. Putting a carburetor larger in diameter than the manifold means putting a really challenging obstacle in this obstacle course. For that reason, the important reason is only one, that if everything works with the depression, what happens when the gas is fully open? The carburetor in the case of 28 is completely open, except that it has a manifold of 24 behind it. Ergo, in the venturi, or in any case at the point where the petrol is aspirated, the depression drastically collapses. So what happens? The carburation gets lean suddenly. So either, without any benefit for performance of course, either you mount a pin, you try to ensure that the carburation has an enormous greasing after a certain opening to compensate for the collapse of the depression, or it ceases. Earlier you talked about a pulverizer, a pin, but if I put a pulverizer with a smaller point or two smaller points, what changes? It happens that the calibration tends to lean a little along its entire arc. Clearly, it does it differently depending on how the pin is made. That is, the larger the needle, the more carburation tends to become leaner. So the more the air is reduced, the more it becomes lean. What does it mean? In a nutshell, if for example we already mount a pin that has a very short conical part, it's possible that there is a greater leaning than the decrease of the nozzle on a pin that has a longer conical part. Clearly, in the first stretch where the aspect works, that piece of the pin, clearly the conical part where it has the most effect is that of the medium apertures. This is clear. But instead I pass the ball back to you. What if I raise or lower the pin? The effect is similar but not quite the same. Just different. If you raise the pin, you get a little fat on the whole arc with a more pronounced effect from the medium openings up. And the main jet, as word says, mainly affects the maximum. Clearly, it always depends on the residual circular crown when the pin is fully open. It'll be useless to put an excessively large main jet if the residual passage area between the needle and the nozzle is insufficient. And what about the valve chamfer, for example? Because here we are always talking about small openings. The chamfer of the valve greatly influences the richness of the calibration when the gas opens. So the more pronounced the bevel, numbers that go up 50, 60, like this, the leaner the engine will be in opening. And this is a very noticeable effect. In short, at the end of this video, in conclusion, where do we want to put the accent on? The most important thing. Don't put large carburetors on small manifolds.
If you liked this video, leave a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Remember, White One Racing is not a workshop, but an amateur sport association that works on engines only for sport purposes and only for its associates.